On April 26, 1986, Chernobyl, Ukraine experienced the worst civil nuclear disaster in history. The meltdown was caused primarily by unsafe reactor design, operators' lack of training, and the Soviet Union's culture of strict confidentiality, a characteristic of the Cold War that prevented workers from raising concerns. Explosions launched radioactive materials into the atmosphere, contaminating multiple European countries, but predominantly Belarus, the Ukraine, and the Russian Federation. 116,000 citizens were evacuated in the following days, and roughly 230,000 have relocated from the area since then. The disaster prompted the Soviets to establish a 1,000-square-mile exclusion zone and send in 350,000 cleanup workers, many of whom were themselves exposed to radiation. Evacuation and relocation were highly traumatic for those affected. Apart from the major disruption of their social networks and the lack of possibility for a return, there was also the stigma attached to them as exposed people. In the immediate aftermath of the incident, the Russian government attempted to cover up the story as much as possible. There was also widespread mistrust among the affected population because they did not believe radiation was a serious health concern. Despite Cold War tension between the East and West, it was only after heavy pressure from the West that Gorbachev began to provide transparency, a move that virtually annihilated a long-standing Soviet practice of secrecy. Those affected by this disaster went on to suffer from a whole host of medical problems. These mainly included a variety of biological mutations as well as defects. In addition, the radiation expelled by the Chernobyl accident caused a significant increase in diseases such as Down syndrome and thyroid cancer. As you can see in this graph, the percentage of people in Belarus with Down syndrome spiked soon after the nuclear disaster. Moreover, within the first 4 months of the incident, about 134 people were exposed to lethal doses of radiation, later contracting radiation sickness. Many of these people died from their exposure to radiation many years after the accident. In addition to health effects caused by this disaster, there was also a significant effect on the environment. The catastrophic impact of this accident most greatly impacted the local wildlife, vegetation, and groundwater surrounding this plant. These effects, in addition to the radiation itself, made the area around Chernobyl completely uninhabitable. As previously stated, Chernobyl was a major catalyst in triggering the chain reaction of events that led to the fall of the Soviet Union. But along with the 3 Mile Island accident, Chernobyl also ushered in a new era of mistrust toward nuclear energy. As a result, new stricter safety regulations were put into place in the United States and as well as in other nations with advanced nuclear programs. 29 years after the Chernobyl disaster, another nuclear meltdown occurred, this time in Japan. The Fukushima Daiichi plant in Fukushima, Japan, experienced a nuclear meltdown on March 11, 2011. The plant was impacted by a large tsunami that caused nuclear meltdowns in 3 out of their 6 reactors. This was the largest nuclear accident that had occurred since the Chernobyl disaster. About 300,000 people had to be relocated. In comparing Chernobyl to the Fukushima disaster, it is evident that as many regulations that are made to increase safety at nuclear plants, natural disasters like that which affected the Fukushima plant cannot be entirely mitigated. In conclusion, the Chernobyl disaster illustrated many of the Soviet Union's philosophies, including secrecy, isolationism, and the oppression of its citizens, which ultimately led to its downfall.